cloud. So in this lecture, continue our discussion on cloud security and trust management aspects. Last class we discussed a few things about this cloud security and trust management. Today we'll continue that discussion, and in today's discussion I will tell you about the reputation system used in the cloud computing. I will also tell you published reputation system by reputed universities. So if anybody is interested in this reputation system, if you want to know more about this reputation system, then you can go through these papers. So before that, the part we will cover today is the security aspects and trust part. Then we'll go for the reputation system. See, the network is given. So you can see in this particular diagram, if you see, there are four. Total number of nodes is actually 5. 4 nodes are launching the D. These are the nodes. The second, third node, and fourth node. These 4 nodes are launching the DDoS attack. That is called distributed denial of service attack. So I told you it is a extension version of our DOS attack. Earlier it is DOS attack, which is launched from a single computer system. But if you go for a DDoS attack, then it is distributed, right? It is not launched from a single place, so it will be launched from various places. Like you can see, this computer is present somewhere, this computer somewhere, like that. These computers are present. But company they are launching this attack in order to slow down the service of a particular customer, or in order to slow down the service of a particular service provider as well, right? So this is the complete network. You can see how these networks are connected. Like there is a set of you can say the routers are there, or the interconnection devices are there, and they are connected to each other so that you can reach from one computer system to another computer system. For example, this computer wants to send data to some other computer system. A particular path you have to follow to reach to a particular computer system, right? So there are multiple paths are there. So you have to pick one path based upon the routing protocol to reach to the destination, right? But here the scenario is different. Here the scenario is that there are 5 DDoS attacking in called it. So these are the active a particular victim node. So this node is a victim node. So they plan to launch some attack onto this particular node, right? So this is the scenario, right? But this victim node is not directly reachable from these zombies. So what they will do, they will find an appropriate path, right? If they all be sent to the same path, then the same path will be exhausted, right? As there is a multiple path exists between two different computer systems, so they are taking and they are following various paths to reach to the victim node, right? Like you can see, the system is following the path. This is the path. It is represented in the form of arrow, so that you can malicious attacking flows. So it is sending some packets, or it is sending some flooding of packets. Okay, that is the packets are will reach to the victim node, and the victim nodes will able to, or if you see these particular messages will reach to a cloud service provider. The cloud service provider may feel that these are the genuine messages or the genuine packet that need to consider, right, or need to reply. So what they will do, they will try to provide packets, but unfortunately these are valueless packets. These are the simple packets to slow down the system. Similarly, they are launching this attack to a particular system so that the user can have access to the cloud services. That also can happen, right? Not necessarily it is in the user end or in the provider end, it may be in either end, right? So you can see it is communicating, it is sending the packets from R3, sending to R3, R3 sending to R2, R2 is sending R1, R1 sending is R0, R0 is the next router of this particular victim node, right? So finally the packet is reached to the victim node. Similar fashion, you can see the second computer, second zombies, what is doing. is sending through R5, R4, R2. Again, it is following the same path R1, R0 because R0 is the only router that is connected to that victim node, right? So everything should come to R0 in order to propagate that thing into this computer system, right? This victim node. Similarly, their paths are written here. You can see the attack traffic flow over the 10 routers. Total router is considered at 10 R to R9, and they are following different paths. Means these zombies attacking zombies. What they are doing? They are following various paths to reach to this router, right? So once they are sending the data on or unnecessary, you can say unnecessary packets to a particular router, the services of the victim node will be slower. Okay, so that the genuine user will not get the service. That's why it is called denial of service. The service is denied, right? Once you are getting overloaded with some requests, so what you will do? You are not able to provide service, or if you are providing services, you have to follow something. For example, you can say the packet which is received first, I need to reply first, right? Like the mail, emails, whatever we receive first, generally we reply that emails first, right? If you follow such sequence, then what will happen? The packets, whatever received at a particular time, that will belong to these attacking zombies, right? In this case, the service will be slower, right? So if you are launching this from the single system, we call it a denial of service attack. But if you are going for a distributed system and you are launching from various systems, then we claim this is a distributed denial of service attack, right? So this is the basic principle of DDoS attacks to avoid this, right? So we have to find that who is flooding the packets in a higher rate, so that you can block, right? And if you see the flooding traffic is large enough, right? Here the flooding traffic is very large enough to cross the victim server, right? Because once you are able to handle 100 requests, but more than 100 requests reach to you, then it is very difficult to solve. Okay, so that you cross the victim server, okay, by buffer overflow because the maximum request can be responded by server, like 100 is I mentioned in this example. Request can be reached particular server, then the server is able to reply to that service. But what happened here is the services are more. Okay, the service requests are more. Or there will be a connection, right? So such things will that is not able to provide the services to the customer, right? Or the victim node is not able to get the service from a cloud service provider, right? So this is the things what you want to deal with in this cloud security and trust management policies, right? You have to design some policies so that they can hold it. I will only when I was there at NIT Rautala, right? During my MTech time, I'll tell you a small example. At that time, you may have heard about IEEE, right? IEEE is one of the reputed research publisher, right? And IEEE is having one link that is called as IEEE Explore, right? IEEE Explore. So in IEEE Explore, what you can do, you can go and you can search papers related to a particular area. For example, cloud security. Then you will get a plenty of papers with conference papers, journal papers, magazine, and you will download the papers in subscription. So what happened in this case? One student of NIT Raulkela at that time, what happened? He wrote one program, right? One program he wrote, and that program is able to download all the papers with respect to, for example, I am searching the cloud security keyword. Let's say there are 1 lakh papers. No, 1 lakh papers are not there, but just I'm giving an example. With respect to this cloud security keyword, assume that you have 1 lakh papers, right? So he wrote one program that program enabling him to download this 1 lakh paper in a one go, right? But if you go to this IEEE page and download, press the download button. Once it is downloaded, you have to come to your previous page. Again, you go through the paper and download it. Right? But he wrote this thing, what we are doing in a manual way. He wrote a program to download all the things. So what happened? IEEE has a statistics, or you can say their technical team has statistics that how many papers people, institutes group of people can download in a particular day. For example, they have the statistics, right? They one particular from your subscription to today's, they have average rate. In order to learn everything, they have the statistics. So suddenly what happened? Uh, let's say the average is X, and he downloaded Y, and you can say Y is much greater than your X. So they analyze this thing, and they try to and they found that Y number papers cannot be downloaded in a small duration of time, right? In a manual process. If you go for manual process, it is not possible. So somebody wrote some program, or somebody bypassed some policies in order to download the entire paper. Okay, a set of paper. So what happened? They immediately blocked the subscription of Creative Color, right? So after there is they have also the issue what we have done. Then after that, the problem is solved. Okay. So the main idea behind this particular story is that you can analyze a particular service, right? And if you get a service picked in a particular time without any region, like Flipkart is having 1 million of user, right, or 1 billion of user, whatever maybe, but average, let's say, 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs people are visiting to Flipkart. But in a normal days, let's say 1 crore people are visiting the particular website. So you can say that day if specific sale, then it is okay, because there is a specific occasion. So it may happen that the number of users is expected to increase. But in general scenario, if suddenly it is increasing, that means we have to analyze the traffic, and we have to see that whether this by somebody is bypassing the account in order to slow down the services, right? The same similar thing also done by the military organizations, right? Whenever you go for military organizations, with the help of the satellite, they know what is the density of each and every area. Okay, the population density. For example, there is no population density in a particular area, but suddenly few people are staying there. So what happened? They are suspicious people. It may happen that why they have moved to that place. Maybe there is a flood in their place, or there may be some natural calamity. So that's why they are moving from their place to that particular place. Or it may happen that if such a scenario not happen in that particular place, so there may be a terrorist, right? So they can analyze this particular thing. If they think, then they can attack to that place, that particular place. So that is the main reason to analyze the entire thing, okay, and decide that whether genuine people are there, or there are some attackers are there in a particular place. Similarly, you can see we have a monitor, right? VMM. You have a VMM here. Let's say there is a virtual machine monitor here, and there is another virtual machine is here, right? On top of the virtual machine, you can launch the VM instances, okay, and VMM creates VM instances, right? Instances, and the resources is provided to this particular VM instances. So what happened in this case? The same thing, whatever here, the same thing is here. But what happened here? Whatever VM instance is there is deployed by a particular customer. That customer is an attacker, or the user is an attacker, right? So what I will want you want to do? Okay, suppose due to balance the load, or due to go for faster execution, what I have planned, the VM instance whatever launched in this particular VMN, I want to transfer that VM instance to this particular place, right? That's why it's saying VM is migrating from a particular host, right? That is a host VMA to host VMB, right? Due to some concept, right? If VM is moving from here to here, let's say the execution is faster. Better quality of service in comparison to this particular host, right? In the migration, or this particular host virtual machine is crashed or something like that. So I recommend this. I want to run this gaming another virtual machine on top of another virtual machine monitor, right? But what happens while you are transferring the VM from one place to another place, or whatever you are doing that, you are using to move it from one place to another place, that network is a vulnerable network, right? So where attack can be launched. Like one of the popular attack we discussed is probably the man in the middle attack. What man in the middle attack take? It will receive the response from the sender, right? It will manipulate that thing and send it to the receiver. And whatever the reply it is coming from the receiver, it is again manipulating that and sending to the sender. Ultimately, you can see the key in the security term. You can say the key associated with the sender as well as in the receiver, both are with the third party, right? Or it has to play some mathematical game so that its own key is used for it, which is able to trace the keys of other, right? So that's why many people and many research people suggested that cloud security is now not in a mature phase, right? So what type of things middle person can launch here? You can see he can modify the VM template, right? VM template case you have to specify the number of processor, what is your quality of service, what is your storage, what is your security information, everything you have to mention, right? So whenever you are sending a virtual machine, it's a template, it's operating system, everything is through this vulnerable network. You can do this person, what it can do, it can modify the template or it can modify the OS state so that it will take more time in this particular instance, right? So such type of cases may happen, or it may happen that whenever you are moving to another host, there may be a intruder or attacker is attacking your virtual machine instance, right? So that may also be happen. Such type of security policies should be enforced so that either user end or in the service provider end, they should not feel that means the security is compromised, so that it will impact into their particular business, right? So user and the service provider in both hands. Okay, so earlier what happened, the policies or whatever you have studied in cryptography network security subject, that techniques are used. But the latest technique suggested is the data coloring technique, right? So the data coloring technique enable to color the data to represent each and every data in the form of a color, right? So if you once you go for the coloring of the data, right? For example, first time I am storing my data in cloud, so I have used and the cloud service provider has used this data coloring technique, right? So what will happen? It will assign each data with a color, right? Each and every data is represented in the form of a color. When that is an enrollment process you are doing with a cloud service provider, right? So once the data is stored in the cloud and assigned with a color, what you can do in the next time whenever you launch that thing, right? Whenever you want to access the data from your cloud, you have to claim the data using, right? If your color, whatever you have specified in the during the your enrollment process is matched with your current one, then only you can able to retrieve the data, right? So such type of techniques are applied in cloud computing in order to preserve the data integrity and user privacy, right? Whatever the data is stored in the cloud, you can leave integrity in that data, right? Data should not be modified, and you have to see that the privacy part, right? Data is not leaked. Privacy is an important concept, right? So such data should not be given to unauthorized person, right? Apart from this, if you go for security and privacy protection feature software, then it has a numerous features, right? Many softwares are there, like antivirus. You can also say it is a security and privacy software, right? That software you can use to combat from various type of attacks, right? So what are the features that software has? First one is your special APIs for authenticating users and sending email using commercial account, right? A specific APIs is given by this particular software so that you can authenticate a particular user. I also gave one example in the last class. If you remember, I told you, suppose you logged in your Gmail account at Hyderabad, let's say at 1 p.m. But 1:10 p.m. you are logging the same username password at 10 p.m. Right? So it is not possible within 10 minutes of time you are moving from Hyderabad to Delhi. So it is assumed that both users, maybe they are authorized users, right? Suppose you have given your username and password to your friend to do a particular thing, right? That is maybe an authorized access, but there may be a chance that that is also unauthorized access. So what will happen? So cloud service, your security provider may ask you to enter the OTP, right? When OTP will go to your mobile, then if you enter the OTP, then only you can enter the system. If such a case will happen, if an unauthorized person is accessing your account from New Delhi, he will not able to access your system because the OTP is with you only, right? Or you can go for a two-step verification process that are provided by Google. So in order to avoid this particular issues, right? Like that, you can also experience the thing that suppose I am sending one email from NITW domain to NITW domain, then it is reaching to your inbox. But sometimes if I am sending the data from or files, any files or document from my Gmail account to NITW, so what happens sometimes it is going to the spam folder, not to the inbox folder, right? Because it is also one type of security software is thinking that so there may be a this message is not that much important, so it is not going to your inbox and it is going to spam. That's why we once you have to go to spam and you have to remove it from spam, then it will come to the inbox. Then the next message unless you will come to your inbox. Such things are there by the help of this software, right? The software determines which one you have to which one you have to adopt in order to about the unauthorized access. The second features you can see here that fine-grained access control. So there is two things. One is called as the fine-grained, another is coarse-grained. This thing may be covered in the computer organization subject, okay, or in operating system subject. Fine-grained means you are going for a detailed one, right? Coarse-grained means you are going for an abstract one, right? So if you are going for fine-grained access control, right? You are going for individual one, you can say. For example, in a cluster, if I am saying there is a cluster manager. So cluster manager is going to represent the entire cluster, right? So this is a called as a coarse-grained one, right? Coarse-grained view. But whenever I am saying fine-grained view, you have to go for a detailed view. It's each and every computer code you have to define, right? So that way the fine-grained is defined in the different from the coarse-grained, okay? So the fine-grained access control to protect the data integrity and deter the intrusion and hackers, right? If you go for fine-grained detailed one, then you can analyze the data and analyze the various controls. Then in the node you can determine who is a hacker, which node is captured by a hacker or a intruder, or whether a virus or a virus or one is injected into a particular network that you can identify. Third type of features that we already discussed that I told you whenever we are purchasing an antivirus software, so what we are doing, we are giving the same software to our friend to install that thing in our computer system, into their computer system, right? So what happened? That is called as your piracy problem, right? Copyright problem, right? The copyright is given to you for a particular period, but as you are giving the keys and software anyhow they can download from the internet, but the key is a very place and important one. The same key is now used in the two computer systems. So one is a pirated one, another is a genuine one, right? So in this context also, I will tell you a small story that when I was there at IIT Dhanbad, at that time there is no licensed version of Windows operating system, right? So Microsoft came to know that the computer systems what are used by this organization and most of the computers are not licensed, right? Few are licensed that is there in the computer center, but the computers used by each and every department is not using the pirated version of our Windows, right? So they wrote one email to their authority by stating that they are using the pirated version, right? So you have to immediately purchase the things, otherwise we will take an action. So what happened? Immediately one message came that please uninstall the Windows from each and every computer system and you have to install the Linux operating system, right? So similar kind of things are possible because of as each and every computer is connected to the internet, right? So they can easily trace that who is using a genuine version or who is using a pirated version, right? So said data sets protected from the malicious alteration. So if you have installed a particular software where you have the licensed version, so you can say that it is more secure in comparison to non-licensed version, right? So sometimes what happens whenever we are installing a particular software, it is working fine, but after 10 days or 15 days, as internet is there, they are able to track and they are able to know that this is a pirated version. So they are asking license file after 10 days, right? So such issues are there, and such issues are detected by the organizations in order to avoid some unauthorized people to use their software because they have not purchased a particular software. Similarly, the fourth one you can see here, ability to secure the internet service provider as well as your cloud service provider. You are getting the services from the cloud service provider through your internet service provider, right? Suppose I am going for Amazon S3 or Amazon EC2, right? It is my cloud service provider. But how I am accessing Amazon S3 and Amazon EC2? Through our network, right? The network may be given by Geo or Vodafone or Airtel or whatever connections you have. So they are providing you the software. So you have to secure both because you have a middle person in order to access the cloud service provider, right? So you have the ability, you have the software should be able to secure internet service provider as well as the cloud service provider for invading users' privacy, right? So both need to be secure by this particular software. Then you can go for your personal firewall at user end to keep shared data from either in the Java or JavaScript or APIs applets. So you can use your personal firewalls in order to avoid the unauthorized access, right? Or in order to maintain your privacy, right? The next one is a privacy policy consists with the CSP's policies to protect against the identity theft and spyware and web browsers. Whatever privacy policies you have to enforce, you have to deal with the CSP's policies as well. As mentioned by previous classes also, CSP uses a service level agreement, right? So the service level agreement is in line with the privacy policies, right? So they need to mention, and this there should not be any conflict among different modules, right? So you have to see that how this privacy policy is consistent with your CSP policies, right? So that a standard policy can be formed by the CSP and that can be used by all the CSPs in order to avoid any kind of data leakage or data theft or any kind of bugs are detected in the system that can be avoided. And the next one is you can use the virtual private network channel between the resource sites. Like I told you in grade 5,000 website, we have seen there are 9 sites are there. So these 9 sites can be connected using your virtual private networks, right? So that this virtual private network will provide you to secure transmission of the critical data objects. Or Amazon is also providing your SQS services, that is simple queue services, which is providing you the reliable messaging system. So this reliable messaging system is helping you to this reliable message providing features that you can securely communicate between any two entity without any intervention of any attacker or hacker in between the services. So if you go for the earlier past days, if you see in the cloud service providers or if you go for the traditional system, they are using the watermarking system, right? Or if you remember in your prior to your this if you are preparing a particular project report in the background, you are placing some logo of your institute, right? Now also we are doing whenever we are preparing our seminar report or project report, what we are doing in each and every page in the background, we are giving a watermark, right? That watermark signifies that this one is belongs to this analysis or this research work is belongs to this particular organization, right? So watermarking is a very good one. Like if you go for image processing, right? In image processing also watermarking is widely used. So if you use watermark, if that image is captured by a third party, right, or a attacker or a intruder, you will see that the original image and whatever image is received, both are looks like same, but this watermark is unable to get, right? So there is advantages is that the data, even if it is captured by a attacker or intruder, he is not able to understand what is there inside the data, right? Because it looks very same as the original image, right? So watermarking making is a very plays an important role for digital copyright management. But nowadays people are not using this data this watermarking concept, rather than they moved from watermarking system to the data coloring system, right? So you can see, I will tell you the figure. You can see there is a data owner, there is a service provider. So whenever the data owner want to save some data into the virtual storage, which is under the service provider, they have to use the data coloring technique, right? For example, EX, EN, HE are the three different colors you can say, or some data you want to store. It is assigned with some color. So initially, whenever you want to store the data in the virtual storage, what you will do, you have to first go for a negotiation process, right? So this process you have to understand, right? Like this negotiation process is nothing but more SLA document, right? Once the negotiation is over, what you have to do, your data objects are mapped with a particular product, right? Before storing into the virtual storage, it should be mapped with a color, right? So there is a forward color generator which sends the data to the data coloring. Data is colored and it is kept in the virtual storage, right? So you can say the user data is now finally stored in the virtual storage, and they are represented in the form of various colors, right? By the next time, if the user want to access the data, suppose I have sent my data in the cloud, but after some time I want to access my data. What I have to do? I have to claim the same things, right? Through this matching technique, right? There is a matching box where I will claim that I want to access this data. This is the color of that particular data. So what happens? The similar kind of things will be followed by the cloud service provider, and they are retrieving the color and they are checking that the color which whatever retrieved from this virtual storage, right? Whatever stored previously, it is matched with your current one. If it is matched here, then the confirmation will come that you are able to access the data. Otherwise, you are not treated as a genuine user to access your data. That's why this figure indicates the system generates unique color for each data. Before storing the data, you have to assign each and every object in the form of a color, right? So user identification is also colored to be matched with the data color. You have to claim that you want to access the data. So you also your user identification. The identity of the user also can be mapped in the form of color, right? So you have to claim that this is the color assigned to the user identification. This is the color is assigned to the data object. Both if it is matched, then only the data can be retrieved. Otherwise, it is not possible. So cloud storage provides a process for the generation, embedding, and extraction of the watermarks in the colored object. When your watermarks are used, it's Kumar, you can say it is little bit not any days it is used in the data. It is mapped. It is data and watermark is mixed together in order to generate a new data, and the new data is stored in the data storage, right? But nowadays, this coloring and decoloring mechanism makes this process of watermarking more easier. Like if you go for a traditional way, what you are doing is encryption and decryption process. You are using, let's say, watermarking in the receiver end, you are also removing the watermarking in order to get the original data. This process is expensive. But if you go for data coloring process, you can color the data even if from into the or attacker will get the data you not able to understand, right? So this coloring and decoloring the data objects require minimum calculation. That's why people are heading toward this data coloring in the cloud system. So there is another issue what we already discussed. Again, I want to discuss in this particular slide, that is called the data locking problem. Data locking problem means one cloud service provider you are relying, so your data is available with that cloud service provider. But later point of time, you decided to move from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider. But unfortunately, what is the problem? The problem is that the data locking problem is the main problem. What is the data locking problem in this case? You want to transfer your data from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider, but the security whatever enforced into your data by the first cloud service provider, or the APIs, libraries, whatever used in the first cloud service provider is completely different from the second cloud service provider. So what will happen? You are unable to move to the second cloud service provider because you have to modify the entire thing, right? So that is very difficult. That's why it is, you can see, once the data is moved into the cloud, user cannot easily extract their data or program from cloud servers to run in another platform. So I decided to run in another platform, but as it is platform dependent, So it is not possible, right? So there may be a region that lack of interoperability, that is APIs and standards and libraries are not there, and compatibility is not there. So compatibility refers to both backward compatibility as well as the forward compatibility. As compatibility is not there, it may result to your data locking problems, right? So the main solution is that if all people use the same type of VM template, or all people are using the same OVF, that is your open virtualization format, they use the standard API, standard libraries, okay, then this thing can be easily avoided. Next is the very important topic. This is all about the trust. Now we'll go to the reputation system. The rest I will spend in the reputation system. I told you trust. Whether you trust a particular person or not, that is your personal opinion, right? You are not trusting X person, but whereas another person is trusting that person, right? So trust is completely your personal opinion, right? Whether you like a person, you dislike a person, it is your opinion, right? It is nowhere related that if you dislike a person, then other people also dislike that person. It is not necessary, right? But whenever you go for the reputation system, reputation is not personal opinion, it is public opinion, right? Whether I'll move to cloud or not, that depends upon the public opinion. Whether I'll purchase a particular product from the Flipkart or Amazon or Myntra, that will be based upon the public opinion, right? The public opinion says that no, this product is excellent at a particular online e-commerce website, then what you can do, you are heading towards that particular website, right? So there you are not going for your public opinion. Your opinion is now dependent on the public view, right? The public, entire public is saying this product is good or this product is having 4.5 out of 5, then you are attracting to that particular product and you are saying yes, that product is a good product, right? So trust is a very subjective and biased one, right? If you are trust if you are believe your friend, your friend is saying he is not a good person, then you also believe that that person is not good. So somehow your things are biased, right? But whenever you go for the reputation, it is more objective and large opinion. If it is large opinion, then such cases can be the biasness can be reduced, right? For example, in a particular product, let's say 10,000 people rated that product as 4.5. If their average rating is 4.5, then you cannot say that it is completely biased, right? So maybe 100 people may be biased out of 10,000, but it hardly matters. So whenever you are going for the reputation system, it is of two types. It may be a centralized system, it may be distributed system. And you know, centralized system means everything is done by a single system, right? There is a centralized server or there is a centralized system which monitors everything, right? Which is very difficult, which may lead to your single point failure as well. So you can see, say, single point centralized system is very easy to implement and demand more powerful and reliable server resources. Whatever server you are hosting for centralized system, you have to ensure that it is a reliable server, right? Otherwise, if it is failed, then the complete system will be collapsed. But if you go for the distributed system, right, it gives more flexibility. Its implementation is difficult, but it gives you more flexibility. What you can do here in the distributed system, the power is not given to a single server, it is given to multiple servers. So if a server will fail, it will not affect the entire server, right? It is a complex process, but it gives a better better reliability in comparison to a centralized system, right? So whether it is a centralized system or distributed system, it is further divided into two parts. That is called a user-oriented system, or you can go for data center system. User-oriented means like you go for eBay or you go for the social network where user plays an important role. Everything is based upon the user. That's why it is called a user-oriented system. But data center, including this user part, you have to see your own part. Like Google is managing its own data center. Okay, Amazon is having its own data center in order to provide services to the data center, right? So you are not only focusing on the user part, you have to also see the system administrator part, right? Similarly, if you go for distributed way, the user-oriented part, three things are written. These three are nothing but the three research papers or three models developed by various organizations or various institutes. Similarly, in the data center part also, you can see two research papers are written. I will tell you overall this research paper. So those who are interested, they can download these papers or these organizations work, and they can go through these papers, right? So in the user oriented, what we are focusing? We are focusing individual users of the agents, right? For example, you can see the first work, whatever highlighted in the distributed system, okay, distributed user oriented system, this Eberer and Despotic, right? They are managing the trust in the P2P system. So this is a research by two scientists, okay? So they are following this P2P system in order to manage the trust. Next one is Eigen trust that is given in the reference number 33, okay? So the book, if you go, Eigen trust reputation system was developed by Stanford University, right? So they are providing this reputation system by providing some policies, right? Similarly, peer trust system is provided by GIT, that is the Guardian Institute of Technology for e-commerce application, and it is a part of the power trust system is a part of the University of South California. So, with respect to various organizations, they are developing their trust and you can say reputation systems, right? Okay, the reputation system for cloud. If you see, you can maintain the data, right? Whether you are following the data or watermarking, or you are going for the data coloring problem, you have to ensure that the copy of the data, whatever there in the virtual storage, that should be consistent, right? Because anytime you are retrieving the data from one particular part, you have to ensure that the same copy is available in all the places. These things you have studied in the database, right? That is the data consistency is the important part in the asset property, right? So data consistency is checked across the multiple database, right? Because as in the multiple database, you are keeping the same data, same copy of the data. At any point of time, these data should be consistent, right? So copyright protection secure the wide area content distribution. If you are providing the copyright, then what happens? One person cannot misuse, right? Like in the research paper also, whenever the paper is accepted, we are signing a copyright form, right? The copyright is transferred to the particular publisher so that if anybody is copying your things, right, or anybody is copying your patents, whatever you develop, then it will be go to the legal proceedings, right? So the data objects must be unique in length to ensure the global consistency. Yes, whenever you are storing the data into multiple places, you have to give a unique identification to each and every data object so that the retrieval is more easier. And in order to implement the reputation system, there is a trust overlay system. I told you there is a two system, one with a physical network. On top of the physical network, we have an overlay network. So that overlay network is going to implement your reputation system, right? So data objects reside in multiple data center over a SAN, storage area network. And if you are going for centralized replication system, it is again easier. As I mentioned, distributed system is more scalable, or you will get more reliability. But the main thing is that there is no centralized control, right? Everything is independent. So if you have to ensure that if one system is crashed or one system is failed, it will not impact the other system. Based upon these trust overlay networks, some authors also proposed some solutions like and we also proposed one solution. One, they build a trust overlay network. It provides the relationship among the data center models, right? So the relationship between each module is defined in the form of trust. Generally, the trust value is represented from 0 to 1. One indicates the things is more trustworthy, and 0 indicates there is no trust, right? So everything you can manage in the form of this trust, right? And trust overlay could be structured with a distributed hash table to achieve fast aggregation and double replication. So indexing is very much important, right? Because if you are going for multiple users, the users are very huge. So if you go for indexing, or if you are using a hash table, you can generate the hash and you can locate a particular data object, right? Otherwise, the data object location is very difficult, right? So the trust overlay network having two layers. In the top layer, you are dealing with the iris and one, okay, signature generation, dissemination, and the privacy detection. But in the bottom level, you are handling the server authentication, right? The bottom layer is always the hardware layer, right? That's why the server authentication, user authentication, SS authorization, trust delegation, data integrity is coming under the responsibility of the bottom layer. So this is the complete system you can see. where we are using the distributed hash table, DHT based cross overlay network. You can see the top layers are dealing with the attacks that what mechanisms should be enforced to deal with the DDoS attack, what mechanisms apply to detect the piracy, okay, and penalize the pirates, right? And whoever is misusing your system, how you are committing that systems, that is the done in the top layer. But bottom layer is dealing with user server authentication and authorization, right? And cross delegation, data integrity control is done by the bottom layer. So trust comes not only from the SLA. Everything should not be mentioned in the form of SLA, right? If you write everything in the SLA, then SLA will be a complex one, right? So many things you have to give in a general point of view, right? Like reliability is an important factor. Yes, obviously you need to mention in the service level agreement, but you have to ensure that it should be provided, irrespective of the cloud service provider. If the reliability and availability is not high, nobody will attract to a particular cloud service provider, right? So not necessarily everything should be mentioned in the service level agreement. As a basic feature, you can provide many things, right? So trust comes not only from the SLA but also from the security policies, right? So this trust and reputation will always come from the security policies. So you have to go for your inbuilt security policy. Like whenever we are purchasing a product from a particular organizations, we are paying the money. Okay, we are paying the through like Google app, or we are paying through Google Pay or Phone Pay, or many sites are there which we are using to pay the amount to a particular online e-commerce site, right? So nowadays we are habituated with systems, so we are not going to see the security policies, right? We are trusting that particular organization, or we are trusting the third party who is managing this payment transfer. So we are not that much hesitate that while you are giving your credit card information or debit card information, that will be captured by your attacker, right? That's why it is saying sometimes it is not only specified in the SLA but also in the form of the security policies and deployment of the countermeasures to defend against network attacks. Right? So basic mechanism need to be defined in the form of the cross-domain network. Both reputation system, or you can go for data watermarking, or you go for your you can say data coloring system mechanism can protect the data center access at coarse grain level as well as limit the access at the fine grain level, right? In the top level also it is required, or in the detailed view, that is fine grain level, it is also essential. So both things will be enabled by the help of this trust and reputation system. So what we need? We need an explicitly security as a service in order to deal with these issues, right? All the issues whatever covered in this section, if it is provided in the form of security as a service, like it is an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, then more things can be explored by a cloud service provider.